imagine just for a moment that there's this single hidden piece of knowledge, like an invisible thread just running through the very fabric of human history.
Right.
We're talking about a literal cheat code to reality itself. Now, I mean, if someone walked up to you on the street and told you that, you'd probably, roll your eyes.
Yeah. Check for your wallet and just keep walking.
Exactly. But what if I told you that this specific piece of knowledge was supposedly understood and guarded and utilized by some of the most brilliant minds ever?
Oh, we're talking absolute heavy hitters here.
Yes. Plato, Galileo, Beethoven, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, Albert Einstein.
It's an incredibly bold proposition to start with, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, to take these incredibly diverse historical figures, people operating in completely different disciplines,
Right.
From classical music to quantum physics.
Yeah, totally different centuries even.
Exactly. And to suggest that a singular underlying principle drove their exceptional lives. But, that is exactly the premise we are unpacking today.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to take a massive deep dive into the source material behind, well, one of the most popular and intensely debated phenomena of the modern era.
Right. The insights gathered by Rhonda Byrne in her book, The Secret.
Yeah. And our goal isn't just to, skim the surface or give you a quick book report. We really want to dissect the core tenets of what these sources call the law of attraction.
Which is fascinating because we're exploring the proposed mechanisms behind it, the daily practices it demands, and the truly profound claims it makes.
Claims about how human thoughts literally physically shape the reality around us.
Right. And setting the stage for this deep dive, it's vital to understand the sheer scope of the material we're looking at.
Definitely. She didn't just write this alone in a vacuum.
No, not at all. Rhonda Byrne acted as a synthesizer. She went out and gathered insights from 24 distinct featured teachers.
24. That's a lot of different perspectives.
It is. I mean, we're looking at a roster that includes quantum physicists, clinical psychologists, philosophers, life coaches, and wealth specialists.
Right.
It's a fascinating collection of minds because despite their vastly different professional backgrounds, their words all point to one unified concept.
Yeah, whether they're using the language of neurobiology or like ancient spirituality, they're essentially describing the exact same framework.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the sheer magnitude of the central claim here is, well, it's staggering.
It really is. The material explicitly states that as you learn this secret, you will come to know how you can have, be, or do absolutely anything you want.
Anything.
Anything. No caveats, no asterisks. It asserts that you can literally think your perfect life into existence.
Regardless of who you are or, what your bank account looks like right now.
Right. That is a massive universe-shifting idea to drop on a listener.
It absolutely is. And it's completely understandable why that specific claim evokes such a wildly polarized reaction,
Oh, for sure. You have people who are absolutely devoted to it and others who are intensely skeptical.
But what's fascinating here is that whether you immediately embrace the mystical claims or not, the underlying psychological patterns are profoundly interesting.
Yeah, when you strip away the cosmic framing for just a second.
Exactly. When we look purely at the mechanics of human attention, self-awareness, and cognitive bias, this material offers a fiercely disciplined way of looking at the world.
Okay, so before we can even begin to talk about applying this historical knowledge, we have to define exactly what it is.
Right, the core principle.
The overarching law that supposedly rules everything in our lives, the law of attraction. Bob Proctor, one of the key teachers featured, says we all work with one infinite power.
Yeah, and Bob Doyle, another specialist in the text, breaks it down to its absolute simplest three-word form.
Like attracts like.
Yes, like attracts like is the aphorism you hear constantly. But Doyle makes a crucial distinction right out of the gate.
Oh, what's that?
He clarifies that we're really talking about this happening at the microscopic level of thought.
Okay, so not just, nice people hanging out with nice people.
Right. The core argument is far more radical. Thoughts themselves are magnetic.
Wow.
They aren't just abstract, invisible things happening in the isolation of your skull. They have a measurable frequency.
So as you think a thought, you're actively attracting, thoughts to you.
Exactly. And ultimately, you're attracting, physical conditions.
The sources use this classic analogy about a television transmission tower to explain this.
Yeah, basically saying your thoughts broadcast a frequency that translates into the pictures of your life.
But honestly, thinking about this today, a much more accurate analogy would be a social media algorithm.
Oh, that's an interesting modern framing. How so?
Think about it. You open an app and you see a video of someone complaining about, say, bad drivers.
Okay.
You don't even have to like the video or comment on it. If you just linger on it, if you just give it your attention for 3 seconds, the algorithm registers it.
It says, oh, they are focusing on bad drivers.
Exactly. So what happens? You scroll down, and the next video is a compilation of car crashes,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and the next is someone ranting about traffic. Within 10 minutes, your entire feed is just this endless stream of road rage and anxiety.
That is so true. The algorithm doesn't care if you actually enjoy road rage.
No, it only cares about what you focus on. The sources are essentially arguing that the physical universe acts exactly like a cosmic algorithm.
That is a remarkably precise analogy for what the source material is describing.
Thank you.
Because the algorithm, or the universe in this context, is entirely impartial. It's a fundamental law of nature.
As reliable as gravity.
Exactly. As Bob Doyle points out, the law does not care whether you perceive something to be good or bad.
It doesn't process whether you actually want the thing or are, like, terrified of it.
Right. It only responds to the energetic focus of your thought.
Yes. And the material is so incredibly specific about this impartiality. It states that the law does not compute words of negation.
It literally doesn't hear don't, not, or no.
So if you're focusing intensely on what you don't want, the universe, just like that algorithm, only registers the subject.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is we connect this to the bigger picture. It mirrors certain principles of cognitive psychology.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, think of a professional golfer standing over a critical putt.
Okay.
They're staring at a water hazard, repeating in their head, don't hit it in the water, please don't hit it in the water.
Right, right. Where is their entire mental focus?
It's entirely on the water. They're actively visualizing the splash.
They're feeling the anxiety of the penalty stroke.
Exactly. Their nervous system is actively rehearsing failure.
Wow.
The source text frames this as the universe delivering what you broadcast, but functionally, it highlights how humans constantly self-sabotage.
By obsessing over what they fear rather than what they desire.
Exactly.
The book uses such a funny but, painfully relatable example of this. It says if you wake up and say, I don't want a bad haircut today.
The universe strips away the don't.
Yes. It just hears, I want bad haircuts. Give me more bad haircuts.
It's so true.
Or if you're wearing a brand new white shirt and you think, I don't want to spill coffee on this outfit.
The universe is receiving the broadcast, I want to spill coffee.
And I want to spill more things. We are essentially addicted to the worst case scenario.
We really are. We somehow think that by intensely worrying about the bad thing, we're creating a protective shield against it.
But Bob Proctor says the law of attraction is always working, whether you believe it, understand it, or not.
Right. You don't look out your window and see pigs flying because gravity decided to take a day off.
Gravity never slips up, and neither does this law.
Which brings us to a massively practical logistical problem for the listener.
Okay, lay it on me.
If every single thought is a literal command to the universe, how on earth do we manage that without losing our minds?
That is a terrifying thought.
Dr. Joe Vitale points out that neuroscientists estimate the average human has roughly 60,000 thoughts a day.
60,000. I would be exhausted by 9 a.m.
Right. It is physically and biologically impossible to monitor all of those.
The sheer anxiety of trying not to have negative thoughts would just create a tidal wave of more negative thoughts.
Exactly. It's the classic don't think of a pink elephant paradox.
You have to paralyze yourself.
Precisely. But Dr. Vitale gives us what the text considers the ultimate shortcut.
Oh, good. We need a shortcut.
And this is where the material shifts from abstract theory to actionable practice.
Oh.
He says the shortcut isn't an exhausting thought audit.
What is it then?
It is your feelings. Your emotions are your dashboard indicators.
Oh, interesting.
It is impossible to feel genuinely bad and be thinking good thoughts at the exact same time.
So our feelings are basically a real-time feedback loop.
Yes. Emotions are an instant frequency reader. You don't have to examine all 60,000 thoughts.
You just have to pause and ask yourself, how am I feeling right now in my body?
Right. If you feel joyful or peaceful, you are, by definition, broadcasting thoughts that are in alignment with your desires.
And if you feel resentful, angry, or depressed, your thoughts are misaligned.
Exactly. Michael Bernard Beckwith, a prominent teacher in the text, adds a critical layer to this.
What does he say?
He explains that you can intentionally change your frequency simply by generating a feeling.
Wait, really? Just out of nowhere?
Yeah. You don't have to wait for an outside event like a raise at work or a compliment to give you permission to feel good.
You can begin right now to feel prosperous, to feel healthy, to feel love.
And he specifically notes that love is the highest vibrational frequency possible.
So if our feelings are the compass and our thoughts are the magnet, how do we actually use this?
Right? How do we navigate from reacting to circumstances to intentional creation?
Yeah. The text breaks down the creative process into a specific 3-step methodology.
And it's fascinating because they explicitly note that this structure is derived straight from the New Testament.
It is deceptively simple, really. Ask, believe, receive.
Let's break those down. Step 1 is ask. Lisa Nichols, a deeply impactful speaker in the book, describes this as making a definitive command to the universe.
It requires immense, uncompromising clarity, right?
Absolutely. You cannot transmit a muddy, confused signal and expect a high-definition picture to manifest.
You have to sit down and figure out exactly what it is that you want.
Bob Proctor advises writing it down physically,
Mm-hmm.
but specifically in the present tense.
That's interesting.
He suggests starting with the phrase, "I am so happy and grateful now that," and then detailing your ideal life.
That present tense instruction is huge. You aren't saying, I really hope I get a new job.
Because that broadcasts a frequency of lacking a new job.
Exactly. You are stating it as a current, undeniable fact, which leads directly into step 2.
And honestly, this is the one that trips almost everyone up.
100%. Step 2 is believe.
The material states that you must act, speak, and think as though you are receiving it right now.
In the very moment you ask, you have to know you already have it in the unseen.
It is unequivocally the most challenging psychological hurdle presented in the material.
Yeah, because the text states that if your thoughts notice you don't have it yet, you will immediately attract the state of not having it yet.
You have to emit the feeling frequency of absolute belief.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, but I have to step in and push back on this on behalf of the listener.
I was expecting this. Go ahead.
Because believing sounds great on paper, but how does a normal, rational human being actually do this without crossing the line into clinical delusion?
It's a very fair question.
I mean, how do you genuinely believe you are completely financially free when your checking account is literally overdrawn?
Right.
How do you believe you are vibrantly healthy when you're sitting in a waiting room in agonizing physical pain?
Yes.
It feels like standing outside in a freezing downpour, getting drenched, and violently trying to convince yourself that you're actually sunbathing on a beach.
It does feel like that.
Our brains are hardwired to assess physical evidence. How do we bypass that?
That is the exact point of friction every critical thinker hits when they encounter this philosophy.
So what's the answer?
The source text provides a very elegant, practical resolution through an analogy offered by Jack Canfield.
Okay, let's hear it.
He addresses this cognitive dissonance by comparing the process of believing to driving a car through the night from California to New York.
Okay, lay that out for us.
Imagine you are driving on a pitch-black highway at 2:00 a.m.
Got it.
Your headlights only illuminate about 200 feet of the road directly in front of your bumper.
Right.
You cannot see the entire country. You cannot see the state line, let alone your final destination in New York.
You're entirely blind to 99.9% of the journey.
Exactly. But here's the key.
Yeah.
You don't refuse to put the car in drive just because you can't see the entire route.
Oh, wow.
You don't panic and pull over because you can't see Ohio from California.
That makes so much sense.
You trust that once you drive that first 200 feet, the headlights will reveal the next 200 feet.
And then the next, all the way to your destination.
The text uses this to explain that believing isn't about knowing the how.
You don't need to know the logistical mechanics of how the money is going to arrive.
Or what specific circumstances will introduce you to your ideal partner. The human brain craves the how because it wants the illusion of control.
Wow, yes it does.
But believing, in this context, is about absolute faith in the what.
You hold the destination in your mind, you trust the direction you're heading, and you allow the universe to unfold the path 200 feet at a time. Wow. That completely reframes it. You aren't being asked to be delusional about your current reality.
No.
You're being asked to detach from the anxiety of the future logistics.
Precisely. You don't have to map out the entire universe's supply chain.
Yeah.
You just have to take the first step in faith.
And that leads perfectly into step 3, receive.
Which is entirely about emotion.
Right. You have to feel the way you will feel once the desire manifests.
Because if you really drill down into it, why do you want the new house? Why do you want the promotion?
You don't just want the physical bricks or the new job title. You want those things because of the specific way you think they will make you feel.
Exactly. You want to feel secure or proud or comfortable.
So the material argues, bypass the physical object entirely and go straight to the feeling.
Bring that future feeling into your present reality right now.
But again, feeling the feelings of an event that hasn't physically occurred yet is extraordinarily difficult.
Yes, for human beings who are strictly conditioned by evolution to react only to immediate sensory evidence.
We're wired to react to the tiger that is actually in front of us.
Right. So the sources offer very specific, powerful daily processes to bridge this gap.
Like behavioral and cognitive hacks.
Exactly. Hacks designed to force your frequency to shift when your physical environment isn't cooperating.
And the absolute biggest one, the one that every single teacher in the material seems to agree is the ultimate skeleton key, is the practice of gratitude.
Dr. Jovital says that gratitude instantly shifts your energy.
Because if you're focused on what you lack, your debts, your problems, gratitude forces your brain to pivot in a completely different direction.
It's worth noting the deep historical context the book provides here, too. It references a seminal text from 1910 by Wallace Wattles called The Science of Getting Rich.
I've heard of that one.
In that book, which heavily influenced the modern law of attraction movement, the longest single chapter is dedicated entirely to gratitude.
Wow, the longest chapter.
Yes, it isn't framed as a polite social courtesy. It's framed as the primary mechanical conduit by which wealth and abundance flow to a person.
It aligned your mind directly with the creative energies of the universe.
Exactly.
And the book doesn't just say, hey, try to be a little more thankful today. It gives a deeply specific, visceral anecdote from James Ray.
Oh, yes, his morning routine.
It is intense. He doesn't just wake up, stare at the ceiling, and think a passive thanks.
No, not at all.
When he gets out of bed, he speaks out loud. He says the word thank when his left foot hits the floor.
And you, when his right foot hits the floor.
Yes. And he repeats this with every single step he takes as he walks to the bathroom. Thank you. Thank you.
What's fascinating about James Ray's routine is the somatic element.
What do you mean by somatic?
It's deeply grounded in the physical body. By tying the mantra of gratitude to the physical rhythmic action of walking, he's engaging his entire nervous system.
Oh, I see.
He is embodying the feeling before his logical brain has a chance to boot up and start running through the day's anxieties.
That is brilliant.
Biologically speaking, you're dealing with two completely different chemical states. Anxiety floods the body with cortisol.
Right.
Gratitude stimulates the production of dopamine and serotonin. He is intentionally setting the biochemical baseline for his day before his environment can dictate it to him.
I love how the author, Rhonda Byrne, actually adopted this exact practice.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she notes that by the time she reaches her bathroom mirror in the morning, she has physically stepped and said thank you 100 times.
That's a completely immersive practice.
Right. If you're doing that, you physically cannot be broadcasting anxiety at the same time. It acts as a frequency override.
You are flooding the engine with positive emotion.
And the text argues that if you are relentlessly grateful for what you currently have, even if it's just running water and a floor to walk on, the universe will inevitably send you more things to be grateful for.
This connects deeply to the second powerful process the book outlines, which is visualization.
Okay, visualization.
Visualization takes the emotional state generated by gratitude and gives it a highly specific target.
Jack Canfield's method is laid out pretty clearly here, right?
Yes. Decide what you want. Close your eyes every single day for several minutes and construct a vivid mental picture where you are already enjoying what you want.
You must fully feel the feelings of already having it.
Then, come out of that state, focus on what you're grateful for in the present moment, and release the desire entirely to the universe.
Releasing it seems like the hardest part, but it goes back to trusting the how. When you visualize, you're building a cinematic picture in your mind where you have already crossed the finish line.
You aren't imagining yourself trying to get the thing, sweating and stressing over it.
You are imagining holding it.
Synthesizing why this works from both a metaphysical and psychological standpoint is crucial here.
Let's hear the synthesis.
When you vividly visualize and feel an outcome and an absolute current fact, you are engaging in intensive mental rehearsal.
Okay.
You're conditioning your neural pathways to accept this new reality as your baseline normal.
Oh, wow.
And most importantly, because you're visualizing the end result, You aren't agonizing over the incremental steps of how it will happen.
Which bypasses our primary resistance, which is doubt.
Yes, doubt blocks the frequency. Visualization bypasses doubt by placing you emotionally at the destination.
Okay, so we've established the core law, the three-step ask, believe, receive process, and the daily tactical tools of somatic gratitude and mental visualization. Let's apply this to the real world. Let's look at the two biggest areas of human desire, the things everyone listening is probably thinking about right now.
Money and relationships.
Exactly. If a listener actually implements this, what does it look like in practice? Let's start with wealth.
The central premise regarding wealth in the source material is that you must focus on the concept of abundance, not the reality of debt.
Right.
If you are constantly scrutinizing your bills, sweating over interest rates, and talking about how expensive groceries are, you are broadcasting a loud, clear frequency of lack.
And the universe will seamlessly provide more bills and more lack.
Exactly. You have to figure out a cognitive strategy to feel wealthy before the physical wealth arrives.
To demonstrate this, the book introduces David Shermer.
Ah, yes, the wealth specialist.
Yeah, he shares a really quirky but brilliant practice. He didn't start his law of attraction journey by trying to manifest $10 million.
No, he started small.
He started with something incredibly mundane: parking spaces.
Parking spaces.
He claims that 95% of the time, he visualizes exactly where he wants to park before he arrives at a crowded destination.
And the space is just sitting there waiting for him.
Yeah. And the other 5% of the time, he pulls up, waits 60 seconds, someone pulls out, and he pulls in.
That's incredible.
He used this exact same low-stakes visualization mechanism to eventually attract massive, life-changing financial wealth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Shermer's story reveals something profound about human psychology.
And the proposed rules of this universe.
Exactly. According to the text, the universe doesn't distinguish between manifesting a prime parking spot at a crowded grocery store and manifesting $1 million business deal.
The energetic mechanics are perfectly identical.
Yes, it takes no more universal effort to arrange $1 million than to arrange an empty patch of asphalt.
Wait, let's stay on the parking space for a minute because this is where listeners might get lost.
Okay, sure.
Are the sources saying the physical universe literally forces a person to finish their grocery shopping faster, get in their car, and leave just so the spot is open for you?
Yeah.
Or are we saying that when we are calm, visualizing, and expecting a good outcome, our reticular activating system, the part of the brain that filters information, just efficiently guides us down the exact aisle where a spot happens to be opening up?
That's a great distinction. The source material leans heavily into the former, that your frequency actually arranges the physical circumstances of the universe to meet your expectation.
Okay, so the universe arranges it.
However, from a psychological standpoint, the latter is equally true. When you are stressed and frantic, your cognitive load is high and you miss opportunities.
You might drive right past an open spot because you're angry.
Exactly. When you are relaxed and expectant, you perceive reality more clearly. But the overarching point the text makes regarding wealth is about the artificial difficulty we assign to things.
Oh, that makes sense. We bring massive societal baggage to money.
Deep-seated doubts, intense feelings of unworthiness. We don't have that same trauma regarding a parking space.
We are the ones putting the price tag on the manifestation. The universe doesn't have a currency exchange rate.
Right.
That is wild to think about. We make the money hard to get because we believe it should be hard to get.
And this exact same principle of internal frequency dictating external results applies directly to relationships.
Yes, the source material is unambiguous.
Yeah.
You cannot expect external relationships to fix your internal frequency.
Lisa Nichols shares a deeply personal, incredibly moving story to illustrate this.
She talks about growing up and looking up to television heroes like Wonder Woman and the Bionic Woman.
Right.
These were characters who didn't look anything like her. Because she didn't see her own features, her own beauty, reflected in the dominant culture, she deeply internalized the idea that she wasn't beautiful.
And she admits that she got into relationships fully expecting her partner to show her her beauty.
Because she was completely incapable of seeing it herself.
Exactly. She wanted them to do the heavy emotional lifting. But the law of attraction states that if your internal baseline frequency is, I don't feel beautiful, or I am unlovable, you will only attract partners and situations that reflect that.
It reinforces that exact feeling of unworthiness.
So she realized she had to do the work herself.
She had to fall in love with her mocha skin, her full lips, her round hips.
It wasn't until she fundamentally changed her internal broadcast to one of radical self-love that the rest of the world could match that frequency.
And fall in love with her too.
It is a profound shift in perspective. You are not a victim of your dating life. You are the active broadcaster of it.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
Dr. John Gray, another relationship expert featured in the book, builds on this by discussing how to maintain a relationship once you are actually in one.
Right, because getting into one is just the start.
He notes that to make a partnership thrive, you must focus entirely on what you appreciate about the other person.
Not your list of complaints.
Right. Every time you complain, every time you fixate on the fact that they didn't take out the trash or they said something annoying, you're focusing on the negative.
And the law of attraction will simply give you more reasons to complain about your partner.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the listener who is struggling in their marriage or frustrated with dating?
It points to a theme of radical, almost terrifying self-responsibility.
Your job is you. You cannot attract a loving, harmonious relationship if you're broadcasting a frequency of chronic dissatisfaction.
You cannot expect another human being to fill a void that you are actively maintaining with your own thoughts.
You have to fill yourself up first to the point where you're literally overflowing with love and appreciation.
And then the universe will simply mirror that overflow back to you in the form of other people.
That concept of radical self-responsibility leads us seamlessly into perhaps the most controversial, challenging aspect of the source material.
Okay, let's go there.
We've seen how our inner thoughts supposedly shape our bank accounts and our romantic partnerships. But the text goes a significant step further.
Yes, it claims that our thoughts literally, physically construct our bodies down to the cellular level.
This is where the deep dive gets really intense and where a lot of people might throw their hands up.
Right.
The book argues that the mind-body connection isn't just a vague wellness concept about doing yoga and drinking green juice.
It's a literal mechanical process.
Exactly. And the primary piece of evidence the text points to is something fully recognized and documented by the traditional medical and scientific community.
The placebo effect.
Yes, the placebo effect. It is positioned in the text as the ultimate, medically indisputable example of the law of attraction in action.
Let's break down exactly what happens with the placebo effect.
Okay, go for it.
A patient who is suffering from an illness is given a completely inert sugar pill.
Right, just a sugar pill.
However, they are told by a figure of authority, a doctor in a white coat, that this pill is a highly effective, powerful cure.
So the patient firmly, completely believes they are receiving the cure.
Yes. Because of that absolute belief, the brain sends signals to the body, neuropeptides are released, the immune system activates.
Oh, wow.
And the body physically manifests the healing based solely on the thought, without any active chemical intervention from the pill itself.
The belief itself alters the biochemistry.
It's mind-blowing when you slow down and really think about the mechanics of that.
The body manufactured its own pharmacy just because the mind gave it the green light.
Exactly. Dr. John Hagelin, a quantum physicist featured in the book, argues that happier thoughts literally lead to happier biochemistry.
A happier, healthier physical body.
Conversely, he states that chronic stress and negative thoughts literally degrade the body and the functioning of the brain.
The text asserts that disease is held in the body by thought, by the constant observation of the illness, and by the relentless attention given to the symptoms.
That's a heavy claim.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. I have to step in here again as the voice of the listener. If someone is genuinely, seriously sick, dealing with a chronic illness, going through chemotherapy, facing a severe diagnosis, the book advises them not to talk about it unless they want more of it.
Right.
It even says that listening to other people talk about their illnesses adds energetic fuel to the disease.
Yeah.
Doesn't that risk crossing the line into toxic positivity? Or sounding incredibly callous?
It definitely can sound that way.
It feels like we are demanding people live in complete denial of physical reality when they're suffering.
This raises a vital question, and it is arguably the most common and potent critique of the material.
So how does the book justify it?
Well, if we look very closely at the nuance provided by the experts in the text, it is not advocating for clinical delusion or medical denial.
Okay.
It's fundamentally a matter of where you direct your creative energy.
I see.
The argument is that complaining about an illness, obsessing over WebMD symptoms at 2:00 a.m., and discussing how awful you feel constantly reinforces the frequency of the illness.
It keeps your mental broadcast permanently locked on the disease channel.
The practice they're suggesting is to acknowledge the current state. You don't pretend your leg isn't broken. You still put a cast on it.
Right. You get the medical help you need.
Yes. but you fiercely, stubbornly direct your visualization, your emotions, and your conversations toward the ideal state of health.
You focus your massive cognitive energy on the healing process, not the brokenness.
The text cites laughter as a profound example of this.
Laughter.
Yes, laughter is presented as a way to attract joy and release negativity. When you laugh, you dramatically shift the body's frequency and biochemistry out of the disease state and into a state of repair.
It's about starving the problem of your attention and feeding the solution.
Exactly.
It's about taking your attention away from the storm and shining a massive spotlight on the clear sky above it.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And to truly grasp how a thought can cure a physical body or attract a parking space or manifest a check in the mail, we have to zoom all the way out.
We have to look at the macro level.
How does the source material actually define the physical universe itself?
To answer that, the book turns to quantum physics.
Right. Specifically through the insights of Dr. Fred Alan Wolf.
Now, to explain this without getting bogged down in jargon, he explains that at a fundamental level, everything in the universe is energy.
Everything.
When you look at your hand or the chair you were sitting on, it looks solid. But if you break down that solid object, past the molecules, past the atoms, past the subatomic particles,
You don't find tiny, hard building blocks.
no, you find vibrating energy, vast amounts of empty space and vibrating energy.
That's so wild to conceptualize.
The text argues that humans are essentially conscious energy magnets. You electrically energize everything to you, and you electrically energize yourself to everything you want based on the specific frequency of your thoughts.
And because absolutely everything is just energy, the book tackles what it calls the myth of lack.
This is a huge paradigm shift.
When we look at the world, especially through the lens of the daily news, we see finite resources.
We see poverty, we see housing shortages, we see fierce competition for jobs.
We see a pie, and if someone else gets a slice, there is less pie for us.
Right.
But the text says this is a fundamental, tragic misunderstanding of reality.
The universe is an unlimited supply.
Poverty and lack only exist because people do not understand their own creative power. The universe offers everything to everyone with absolute impartiality.
If the universe is composed of infinite, malleable energy, then by definition there can be no true shortage.
The limitation is never in the universe's supply.
The limitation is only ever in the human capacity to ask, visualize, and believe.
This shifts the focus entirely back to the individual.
The secret to you, as the book frames it, is that you are the undisputed master of your life.
To help listeners align with this profound responsibility, the text provides a shortcut affirmation to reset your energetic baseline.
Oh, I like this one. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy.
There is a really fascinating meta practice mentioned in the text that I absolutely love, and it perfectly illustrates this idea of infinite connection.
What is it?
The book suggests that you can use the physical copy of the secret itself as a manifestation tool.
Oh, that's right.
It advises the reader to hold the physical book in their hands, ask a question or seek guidance on a specific problem in their life, believe they will receive the exact answer they need, and then let the book fall open randomly.
The claim is that the exact page your eyes land on will hold the specific guidance required at that very moment.
Which perfectly encapsulates the ultimate message of the entire text.
That practice represents absolute, unwavering trust that the external environment, in this micro example, the printed pages of a book, responds directly, instantly, and flawlessly to the internal intention of the individual holding it.
It dissolves the illusion of a boundary between the internal mind and the external world.
This raises an incredibly important question for anyone engaging with this material.
Which is?
What if the secret isn't a magical force out there in the cosmos, but a power entirely contained within the architecture of your own consciousness?
That is the perfect pivot to bring us to the end of our deep dive.
We've covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have, from the quantum fields of vibrating energy to the absolute mundanity of grocery store parking spaces.
But the true beauty of this source material is how it all boils down to a few very simple, demanding rules.
The law of attraction is always working. It is always listening to your frequency.
Therefore, expect what you want. Fiercely, ruthlessly guard your mind against expecting what you don't want.
Practice somatic gratitude with every step you take.
And visualize your end result with absolute, unwavering faith.
And if all of the quantum physics, the specific daily routines, and the three-step processes feel a bit overwhelming right now, the text offers one ultimate, undeniable shortcut.
The simplest distillation of all this collected historical knowledge.
The fastest way to get anything you want in life is to focus entirely on being and feeling happy now.
Joy is the highest frequency. When you radiate joy, you bypass all the mechanical steps and simply become a magnet for everything that matches that joyful frequency.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the source material, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought-provoking challenge based on everything we've just unpacked.
The book argues that absolutely everything in your current life, the good, the bad, and the completely mundane, is a direct, undeniable manifestation of your past thoughts and frequencies.
You attracted it all. So, take a breath right now and ask yourself, what is the exact frequency you are broadcasting this very second?
Are you broadcasting stress, frustration, and lack?
Yeah.
Or are you broadcasting abundance, gratitude, and joy?
Because if the universe truly is an impartial mirror, as this text claims, what is it preparing to reflect back to you tomorrow based entirely on how you feel right now?
It's a powerful, sobering realization. The remote control to the television screen of your life is in your hands.
You just have to decide, with every thought you think, which channel you are going to choose to watch.
Exactly. You are the architect of your reality.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Keep questioning, keep exploring these ideas, and most importantly, pay very close attention to those thoughts. We'll see you on the next deep dive.